Welcome to a play-by-play review. I am your host, Henry, and it's sort of the season finale for this series of NFL weekly recaps. It's what I started out this podcast doing, and now, 6 months later? Something like that? 5 months? It's been a while, and it's over. Obviously, this podcast isn't going anywhere, but yeah, the Super Bowl happened this past weekend, and the NFL is going into the offseason, though that will also, of course, bring news of various things like free agency and the draft, but that is for later on down the line. For now, we have, along with the Super Bowl, some other various, mostly coaching news, some few player stuff, like news here and there. So I'm going to go over the non-Super Bowl related NFL stuff before, just to get that out of the way, like I did last week with my baseball free agency recap video, episode. Which you haven't watched that, go watch it. I also go over the various coaching news various bits of coaching news that happened in the interim since the conference championship and that week, which was a lot actually. It took up like 15 minutes. This one is less notes here and there, though I do have the NFL honors to go over. Also, I will like to rant a little bit. I rant about this and a couple things, but I put out my baseball free agency video last Tuesday, or not video, episode. I've been doing a lot of YouTube stuff that, the video is on my mind, but this is all audio. But anyway, I put the baseball free agency out, and of course, it's been like 3 months since baseball free agency had started. It started back in basically the start of November. And of course, the day after I put it up, the Framber Valdez signing happens. That was like one of the big remaining free agents, especially in the pitcher department on the market. So he went there. He went to Detroit. Also in Detroit, Justin Verlander recently just signed with them. So there's another baseball tidbit for you. And then also just today I saw, sadly, Tony Tater's Anthony Santander is going on the injury list for like 5 to 6 months for like a wrist or elbow surgery or something. I don't remember exactly what injury it was, but even if he's on the Blue Jays, he is still a fan favorite Oriole, so it sucks to see him go down with an injury. But anyway, enough about baseball. I'm just going to get right into the coaching stuff. So I'm going kind of chronologically here a little bit. And we're starting off the New York Jets, who retained Aaron Glenn. That's his name, I'm pretty sure. Their head coach, Aaron Glenn. They did not fire him after the terrible season that they had. But he is bringing in former Colts and Panthers head coach Frank Reich to be their offensive coordinator. I want to say Reich was also in Philly. I could be wrong, like as an offensive coordinator years ago, but I could be completely wrong there. But Frank Reich is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Jets. I actually don't mind this hire too much. I think his time in Carolina really hampered his reputation because he was solid as a coach in Indianapolis. I felt like it was just he could not find a good answer at the quarterback position. That's what really did him in. And then Carolina was just awful. That was just he did not do well there. No one did well there. Top down from like David Tepper all the way down to Bryce Young, because I think that was 2023. It was not a good time there, essentially. But yeah, I think he's better suited here as an offensive coordinator, though with the Jets, I don't know. They don't really have too much talent there. Be very interesting to see who they go for at starting quarterback, because there's no way they roll with Justin Fields and Brady Cook again. I'm pretty sure they had given Justin Fields a 2-year deal in the offseason, but there's no way they roll with Justin Fields again. I think Fields' time as a starter is over. He's probably just going to be floating around as a backup QB, if that. I think I've seen a lot of people mock Malik Willis to the Jets as a during free agency. So I could certainly see that happening because Willis has put up some pretty good tape while backing up Jordan Love in Green Bay. But yeah, we shall see on that front. So next up, speaking of offensive coordinators, because there's going to be a lot of this, since all the head coaching stuff is done, it's a lot of coordinators now. Steelers are hiring Vikings passing game coordinator Brian Angelicchio. I think is how you pronounce it, like Angel Icchio. I think it's kind of how it's spelled. As their offense coordinator, he had previously worked with Mike McCarthy in Green Bay, so there's that connection there. Don't know if McCarthy will be calling plays or not, or if it will be Angel Icchio. So we'll see there. I guess I honestly don't remember when they got rid of Arthur Smith. I feel like they got rid of him like weeks ago, and I probably even said it in one of my episodes. I just kind of forgot at this point. But yeah, Arthur Smith is out. Brian Angelicchio is in as offensive coordinator for the Black and Gold Brigade. So next up on the offensive coordinator cycle, the Arizona Cardinals hiring Nathaniel Hackett as their offensive coordinator. Hackett, former head coach of the Denver Broncos back in 2020. I think it was 2022. When they traded for Russell Wilson, he was terrible there. Didn't even last a full season. He was also the offensive coordinator in Jacksonville back in the late 2010s. I think he was recently on the Jets as their offensive coordinator. So this is a bit of a puzzling hire. My guess is, just knocked my phone over. But my guess is new head coach Mike LaFleur is looking around for, a veteran presence for the offensive coordinator position. I just don't know why he went with Hackett specifically, because Hackett has proven to be a terrible head coach. Not even just terrible head coach, like a terrible coordinator as well. Like I don't know what was going on here. I think Hackett was an offensive coordinator back, or like basically worked in Green Bay back in like the mid 2010s, when Rodgers was popping off. But he has proven nothing in the NFL, like nothing good for years now. So I don't know what's going on here. It's kind of like the Matt Nagy hire with the Giants. It's like you have some optimism with your head coaching hire, and then you make a pretty baffling offensive coordinator hire. So after that, in my notes at least, we have the NFL honors. So Josh McDaniels wins Assistant Coach of the Year. I don't think I made a prediction for Assistant Coach of the Year because I didn't realize this was an award. McDaniels is obviously part of the Patriots team that went to the Super Bowl, which I will be getting to in just a second. So not, super surprising that he gets an award like that with an offense that really turned things around. Though there's definitely plenty of other coordinators that were certainly open to getting deserving of the award, but in the end they went with McDaniels. I don't think it's like a bad pick, but there probably could have been others as well. Like I'm trying not to poo-poo McDaniels, but I don't know. It's fine. So after that, the Defensive Player of the Year award unsurprisingly goes to Myles Garrett, which I got right in my predictions. Then we had the Hall of Fame inductees, which were Larry Fitzgerald, Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri, Roger Craig, and Drew Brees. So, this is a Hall of Fame class that is not headlined by Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft. With a lot of controversy there, but the guys that actually got in were all pretty deserving. I don't know too much about Roger Craig off the top of my head because I think he's more of an older guy. But the others, like Kuechly's one where I know some people are like a little iffy about just because Kuechly didn't play too long. He retired, I think, at the age of 29 back in 2019, after the 2019 season. But when he was on the field, Kuechly was insane. Larry Fitzgerald, no doubt, first ballot Hall of Famer. Like Fitzgerald, one of the best wide receivers of all time. He's like third or second on the all-time receiving yards list, only behind Jerry Rice. And no one's catching Jerry Rice because Jerry Rice played for an insane amount of time and was productive for an insane amount of time. Adam Vinatieri, also not surprising, like one of the best kickers in NFL history, was a driving force behind the Patriots dynasty in the early years, and then also spent plenty of time in Indianapolis, cementing a legacy there. And then Drew Brees, also no surprise whatsoever. Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks of the late 2000s and all of like the 2010s. Like, it's a shame the Saints could not field a defense to save their life in the 2010s because Drew Brees deserved to get back to the Super Bowl more than the first time when he won in 2009, because Drew Brees is a heck of a quarterback. He was really good. So after that, Coach of the Year went to Mike Vrabel. Also not super surprising. I think I had Liam Cohen as my prediction. Vrabel, I think it was probably more the safe bet given the turnaround and that the Patriots won the Super Bowl and all that, so not surprising there. Offensive Rookie of the Year went to Tedero McMillan, which I had as my prediction. I also predicted Carson Schwessinger as Defensive Rookie of the Year, which he did earn. This is like, both of them were kind of like, you could pick a few different things, and there wasn't like a clear, like, someone was really setting the tone for, or like someone was really standing out above the rest. But I think both these guys, deserve to win the awards and, played well. So I'm going to toot my horn in the predictions there. Then for Protector of the Year, which is a new award for offensive linemen, which I think is a cool award. I don't think I did a prediction for this, but Joe Thuney, I think is actually how you pronounce his name, the guard for Chicago, longtime Kansas City Chief, now on the Bears. He won it for 2025. Then Comeback Player of the Year, which I forget if I predicted this. I might have, but this one went to, I feel like I did, and I forget who I picked. It wasn't Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is who won the award, which also not super surprising since, he was injured a bunch last year and had a 2,000 scrimmage yard year this year. Then Offensive Player of the Year went to Jackson Smith-Njigba, which I'm pretty sure I predicted. Also not super surprising. JSN had quite the year. I think over 1,700 receiving yards. And then for MVP, it was the tight race between Stafford and May. I predicted Stafford, and Stafford did end up winning MVP on a very, very close vote, and plenty of controversy there as well. You can, comment who you thought should have been MVP. It was whatever. I thought Stafford should have won MVP, and he did because he had a, insane season. And then finally, the Walter Payton Man of the Year award went to Commander's own Bobby Wagner, which is cool to see. The Walter Payton Man of the Year is always the character one, doing stuff like showing character and good stuff outside of football. So Bobby Wagner, he's always had a reputation of not only being one of the best linebackers of the 2010s and 2020s, also just being a standout person. So not super surprising that he would walk away with this award. So after that, we go back to more news, and unfortunately, we go to some sad news here as legendary Washington Redskins quarterback Sonny Jurgensen sadly passed away a few days ago. I should say, not like, I think it was back on Monday, or it was maybe a couple days before that, like Saturday or Sunday. But yeah, like very recently, Sonny Jurgensen, long-lived guy, played back in the 60s, if I remember correctly, like 50s, 60s, roughly. He was insane. Like you look up the stuff he does, like the stats he put up, and just the talent he had for back in the day. It was kind of insane. Like there was a video resurfacing, that people were sharing after his passing of like him in his 50s or 60s. This is back in way back in the day. He was at like a Redskins practice, and there was a time like when he was playing back, like way back in the 50s or whatever, or the 60s. I'm actually going to pause here to double check on when he actually played. Okay, I checked. He debuted in 1964. So I think I was confusing Sammy Baugh for the 50s. Spoiler alert, I'm doing a little bit of a video relating to the Washington Redskins for my next big project that's been in the works for like a week now. So that will hopefully be done by the end of this week. I have almost all the scripting done. So we'll get to that. But yeah, Sonny Jurgensen played in the 60s, and there's a play in the 60s where he basically threw like a behind the back pass. And then there's a video resurfacing of like 20, 30 years later where he was at a Redskins practice and he was doing that again, like the behind the back pass, and he threw it like 30 yards. It was insane. Like Jurgensen was a guy who was like, he was the Dan Marino before Dan Marino was Dan Marino. Like if you don't know Dan Marino, who played in the 80s, and passing yards for quarterbacks, like they were good, but it wasn't like insane. Dan Marino put up a 5,000 yard passing season in the 80s, like in 1983. It was ridiculous. And like Jurgensen was doing that kind of stuff back in the 60s. It was crazy. So rest in peace, Sonny Jurgensen. You will sorely be missed. One of the greatest of all time to do it as a Washington Redskin. So then in less, tragic news, we get to, well, this is certainly tragic news for Browns fans, not in the sense of a death, but in the sense that Jim Schwartz is resigning from his position as defensive coordinator. So well done, Browns. You pissed off your very well received and good defensive coordinator who was the mastermind behind one of the best defenses in football. So good job. Very, very good job. Next up, the Chicago Bears promoting Press Taylor to their offensive coordinator position. I'm not quite sure why, because Press Taylor was awful in Jacksonville. But I guess maybe a year working under Ben Johnson, can fix the things that he did wrong. And again, Ben Johnson's going to still be calling the plays, but I don't know. Taylor was so bad in Jacksonville, so I got nothing. I'm sorry, Bears fans. Hopefully he's better than he was in Duval. Next up, speaking of bad coaching hires, the Los Angeles Chargers bringing in none other than Adam Gase, the terrible, terrible head coach of the Dolphins and Jets in the late 2010s. They're bringing him in as an assistant coach in some various role. So he's not like touching anything super high end, but still, why this guy's allowed to be back in football? I got nothing. Like you had a good hire in Mike McDaniel, and then you ruined it with Adam Gase. I mean, I don't think it's like gonna be like super ruined, but like, Adam Gase, he's terrible. I don't know why he's still allowed to coach football. Then moving on, the Ravens officially hired Anthony Weaver as their defensive coordinator. I feel like this was already news, but this was like a thing that was officially official, kind of, essentially. So Anthony Weaver replacing Zach Orr as the team's defensive coordinator. Don't know if he'll call plays or head coach Jesse Mentor will be calling plays. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's that for the Ravens. Then also in Washington news, Cliff Kingsbury, the now former offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders, is going to Los Angeles, the Rams, I should specify, in some sort of like assistant coach type of role. So he's going to kind of reunite with his buddy in Sean McVay. I don't think Kingsbury ever coached under Sean McVay, but I think it's like they have kind of similar systems. So there's that. Then finally, the final news is also not very great news concerning James Pierce Jr., the former first-round pick by the Atlanta Falcons. I think it was like 27th or 28th overall pick in this past year's draft. He was the guy that they traded back up for with the Rams, trading away a first-round pick. Defensive end out of Texas, I believe. And he actually had a really solid season. He had like 10.5 sacks. Unfortunately, he had some character concerns coming into the draft. The Falcons won with him anyway because they really need a pass rush. And those character concerns cropped up in a pretty horrifying way, where he was apparently like chasing down his girlfriend or like ex-girlfriend in his car, like on the highway or something, and like almost ran her over or something. It was some ridiculous domestic violence issue that luckily no one died. Like no one died, no one seriously injured. But Pierce Jr. has, like, I'm assuming been arrested at this point, or at least been charged or something. It's not good at all. Pierce Jr. is an idiot, a buffoon, an absolute fool for doing this. You literally have millions of dollars. And this is what I find so frustrating about a ton of players who are like throwing away their chance to play in the NFL, not because, they just play bad football or whatnot. Like you can't help it too much. Like if you aren't like able to cut it talent wise, then it's whatever. But it's like, if people are just throwing it away for stupid off the field issues, they're like, you're throwing away a once in a lifetime opportunity and something a fraction of a percent of the population is ever to make. And they're making tens of millions of dollars, like potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in like playing football, like doing something that, watching on the couch looks fun. And it's like, it's a job, but it's a fun job. And it's like, it's something that so many people dream of and you're throwing it away. I hate it so much. I hate that people do this. And it's a recurring thing. It's just frustrating, just incredibly frustrating. So don't know what's going to happen to Pierce Jr. If he's going to get cut or if he's going to be placed like suspended for a year or whatnot. Don't know yet. It's still early and everything, but yeah, that's very unfortunate for the Falcons as an organization. Obviously, there's a risk you'd have to take with character concerns, but still, it's like it's getting to worst case scenario for that pick essentially. So anyway. After almost 20 minutes of preamble, me going over news, I was not planning on this taking that long. We get to the Super Bowl. It's luckily I only have the one game to cover, and I'm basically going to be going a little bit drive by drive, since I did actually kind of write down notes for each drive, for the Super Bowl. This was taking place in Santa Clara, California, in the 49ers Stadium between the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. Both were 14-3 through the regular season. And Seahawks fielding the best defense in football and a very solid offense as well. Versus the Patriots, who were fielding one of the better defenses in football and a very solid offense as well. Though postseason-wise, the Patriots' offense was struggling a good bit, whereas the Seattle offense, while not super flashy outside of the game against... the Seattle offense is pretty flashy now that I think about it. They also were not turning the ball over at all compared to the regular season, where the Seahawks actually did kind of struggle with turning the ball over, especially Sam Darnold. He had some turnover problems here and there. But coming into this game, the Seahawks had not turned the ball over in either the divisional or championship round, whereas the Patriots, their offensive line was struggling in all three of their games. But still, their defense was playing incredibly well. So we start off with drive number 1, which went to Seattle. Seattle actually marched down the field pretty well. It looked like they were going to, take an early lead, though they did stall out a little bit. New England's secondary was playing very aggressive, taking away a lot of, deeper and even like medium pass opportunities. And Seattle would eventually stall out in Patriots territory, though Jason Myers will kick a field goal to make it 3-0. The Patriots drive was up next, drive number 2. They started off on the ground game, though couldn't get too much going. Will Campbell gave up a big sack, and the Patriots wound up punting. Drive number 3 was Seahawks barely missed a deep shot touchdown to Rashid Shaheed, if I remember correctly. Then basically went 3-and-out after that, and punted. So you're going to kind of start to see a theme here, by the way. Patriots on the 4th drive, they have basically one good play, then get stuffed, then they punt. Seahawks pass rush was doing very, very well. Drive number 5, the Seahawks converted on 1 first down and then punted. Pats defense was also playing very well. This was the end of quarter number 1, and we could tell pretty early on that this was a defensive battle. The Patriots, they just were not able to get anything going in this game early on, and the Seahawks weren't faring too much better, to be honest, on the offensive side of the ball. It was like both defensive lines were having a field day. Both secondaries as well were having a good time as well. The Seahawks defense was playing great, and that continued going into quarter number 2 with drive number 6. The Patriots immediately went 3-and-out, and the Patriots punted back to Seattle. Drive number 7 consisted of Kenneth Walker having a pretty good go-around. He broke a couple of pretty big runs. He had a 30-yard rush, I believe, during this drive. He had showed some really good patience behind the line as well. It was like, if you ever watched prime Le'Veon Bell back in 2016, when he was one of the best running backs in football, it was very reminiscent of that, just waiting behind the line, waiting for the line to open up a hole, and he would just burst right through it. He would kind of lead the Seahawks offense down the field, though they would eventually stall out and kick a field goal. Jason Myers going 2 for 2, making it 6-0. The kickoff went to New England. They then took a big sack on 2nd down and went 3-and-out during the drive, punting once more. So after that, the Seattle Seahawks had a little bit of progress on drive number 9, then punted. My TV also had some connection issues. Not really sure why. I think it was something to do with Comcast or Xfinity. So it's a little spotty during this drive. So I was a little annoyed. I had that in my notes. But yeah, the Seahawks punted. Michael Dixon, the punter for Seahawks, had an insane game during this. I should point out he was he didn't end up getting Super Bowl MVP in this, but he had 3 punts inside the 20, and I think all 3 of them, or at least 2 of them, were inside the 6-yard line. He was going nuts. It was really impressive. So drive number 10, the Patriots, this is one of the one where they were backed up to the 2-yard line, essentially, from the punt. They were able to get it out of their own end zone. I think this is one where Drake may miss. Actually, no, that was later down on the line, now that I think about it. But yeah, the Patriots were able to move the ball a little bit to get out of their own end zone. There was also the first penalty of the game. This very penalty-free game, which was pretty nice to see. I think it was actually a Will Campbell penalty, if I remember correctly. May was getting pressured a lot during this drive, and this wound up as a punt for the Patriots. You can kind of see how the Patriots, this entire game was going for the Patriots. Their offensive line was not it. I'm just going to say that. It was not it at all. So Drive 11 continues with the Seattle Seahawks. They had started driving, and then the 2-minute warning happened. So this game was actually going pretty quickly. The Seahawks were able to kind of drive it down to the end zone, or to the red zone, I should say. So this is like one of the better drives by the Seahawks. Darnold even attempted to go for a touchdown to JSN, though Christian Gonzalez nearly intercepted the ball. Gonzalez was having a really good game. Excuse me. Gonzalez was having a really good game. Both him and then his opposing cornerback, or Devin Witherspoon, like the two shutdown cornerbacks for each side, were having really good games. Like both of them were, among many others on the defensive side of the ball for both teams, were having some really nice games. So in the end, the Seahawks would stall out in the Patriots red zone, and Jason Myers would kick another field goal, making it 9-0 going into halftime. So at halftime, we got the Bad Bunny halftime show. Or if you were not inclined to that, there was also the Kid Rock headlined alternate halftime show. I went with the Bad Bunny show because I just didn't feel like, I kept with the Bad Bunny show. I'm not someone who listens to a lot of music in general. Most of my music choices are, or my genre of choice is usually classic rock when I do listen to music. But I don't usually listen to basically my discography that I would listen to is largely classic rock, bit of Imagine Dragons, and then like video game OSTs and like various movie soundtracks as well. Like I'm not someone who listens to a lot of modern music just in general. I've heard of Bad Bunny. Like I'd heard of him before. I've definitely heard of a couple of songs here and there, but I couldn't name you more than like maybe one song that he's done. So it's not like I was, looking forward to this at all. Not that I think he's bad. It's just I didn't know too much of his music. It's the same thing that it's been with me for like the past probably 7 or 8 halftime shows. It's like I know a lot of, like, I know basically everyone who's performed, and I've definitely heard of plenty of their songs before, but like I couldn't care less. I'm just not someone who listens to a lot of music. I was still kind of excited to see what Bad Bunny would put on performance-wise anyway, because I had seen him in WWE a little bit. Not that I regularly watch WWE. I'm a wrestling fan. I just prefer to watch AEW instead, and I'm not touching that debate with a 10-foot pole at the moment. I'm not going to try and be a wrestling podcaster. That's why I'm a fan of it, but I'm not touching the wrestling podcast space whatsoever. If you know, you know. If you don't, be glad you don't. But anyway, I follow WWE on occasion here and there, and Bad Bunny, he's a big wrestling fan, from what I know, and he's performed in the WWE, like as a wrestler, not just as like a musician. Like he's actually wrestled on a number of occasions. Like he's shown up in the Royal Rumble a couple times. But there was, back in 2023, there was WrestleMania Backlash in Puerto Rico, which is Bad Bunny's home territory, I guess. Because it's not a state, it's not a country, it's a territory, I think is what it's officially called. But yeah, the Backlash took place in Puerto Rico back in 2023. And there was like a street brawl match, essentially, between him and Damian Priest of the Judgment Day. I think is back when Priest was in the Judgment Day. And if you haven't seen his entrance at Backlash in Puerto Rico, go watch it on YouTube. It is so good. Like that is what wrestling entrances are supposed to be, because he comes out to Cumbaya, I believe is the song name, and he's in his home with an arena, like it was probably like 20,000 people there, and they are going insane for him. Like it's just a full-on concert at that point when he shows up. It's so cool. Like I go back and watch that just like on occasion, because it's just so good. And so like that was honestly the most I knew of Bad Bunny, was watching that over and over again, because it was really cool. It didn't feel like he had quite the same amount of hype as that moment, but it's like, I think if the Super Bowl was played in Puerto Rico, it would probably been like that. It would be cool to see like an NFL game played in Puerto Rico. I think that would be kind of neat. Also, side note, I know we're getting one in Melbourne this year, I guess it is this year, in 2026, which is going to be pretty cool. But anyway, the halftime show happened. I can't comment too much about it, because I again, I don't know too much Bad Bunny's music. Apparently, Pedro Pascal was there, like in the performance. I didn't see him, but apparently he was there. I think Lady Gaga also showed up to sing a little bit. And then I think there's like one other artist that I don't know. But it was pretty cool. I didn't mind it too much. And that's about it. It was solid from what I could tell. If you want to find 10 million different opinions, just go anywhere online and search up the halftime show. Cause there's, everyone's got an opinion about it. For me, I was like, that was cool. I'm just not like, just wasn't my, like, if it was Queen showing up, I'd be going nuts, but I doubt they're going to be doing a halftime performance. Anyway, we get back to football here. Start of the third quarter, going to the Patriots, and the Patriots had gotten, I think it was like a Super Bowl low 51 yards of total offense in the first half. It was bad. It was really bad. Drake May did not look good. He was getting rushed on a lot of his throws, and even when he wasn't, he was not making very good throws. The run game was getting completely stuffed. And again, this is all largely because the offensive line was having just a nightmare of a time. Will Campbell especially was. I mean, he'd been dealing with injury for a while now, and he'd not been playing well this whole postseason. And this was probably his worst game of the postseason. Like it was really bad. It was really bad. There's a good chance he gets moved from tackle to guard at some point in his career, because I think a lot of players who are, like maybe subpar offensive tackles. Can turn into much better guards because they have the talent. They just might not have the versatility and like the agility that a tackle needs to have. And like with Campbell, it's like, the short arms or the whole thing. We'll see what happens. But anyway, side tangent about Campbell over. So the drive 13, first of the third quarter was a Patriots 3-and-out. May just couldn't find anything downfield during the drive, and they punted. Seahawks started rolling the passing game on the next drive, though they eventually stalled out. They also burned a timeout in this that I marked down because it might be important. It was not important in the end. The Seahawks were able to push it into New England territory well enough and kick a field goal, making it 12-0. Jason Myers going 4-for-4. But even then, it was still like neither offense was getting much going. The Seahawks were looking a little better. Patriots not so much, as with the next drive number 15. Patriots once again went 3-and-out. Drive number 16, after the punt, started with a big sack by Milton Williams, who he was having a good game, all things considered, and he made his presence here felt on that drive. And the Seahawks went 3-and-out during that drive, so they punted again. Drive number 17 included a sack on Drake May for the fourth time in the game, and it is the 19th time he was sacked in the postseason, which I believe tied Joe Burrow's record for back in 2021 for most times being sacked in a single postseason, which is not ideal. Pats went 3-and-out on that drive, so that was 3 straight 3-and-outs for the Patriots in the third quarter. Also around this time, JSN, I think it was on the previous drive, JSN went into the medical tent to get checked for concussion. It was in this drive we saw that he was going back into the locker room. And with that, Seahawks went 3-and-out in this drive. So the third quarter is basically just a lot of punts. It was a very punt heavy Super Bowl, and it was definitely looking like one of the worst Super Bowls in terms of entertainment value, unless you were a big fan of defensive football. But if you're a fan of punts, this game was going crazy through the first 3 quarters. And so with drive number 19, Patriots, they got a first down. They finally got a first down. Then they had a holding penalty, and then Drake May got strip sacked. Who was it? It was Byron Murphy II recovered the fumble. Say who forced the fumble. I feel like ESPN should tell me who forced the fumble, but it doesn't tell me who forced the fumble. Maybe it was just Byron Murphy who forced it. I don't know. But yeah, it was a fumble by Drake May on a sack, turnover on downs, or turnover possession-wise to the Seahawks. This also signaled the end of the third quarter. And after that, the Seahawks, with a short field position, got into the red zone, and Darnold hit A.J. Barner, the tight end, on a pretty nice pass and a nice route. Barner was wide open for a touchdown. It was I believe, a 16-yard touchdown. First of the night in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, it took a little while to get the score going. And the extra point made it 19-0. So it was very much a rout in favor of Seattle at this point. Drive 21, however, Patriots finally showed up on offense, as it's basically a drive in two plays. Like there were a couple other plays here and there, but the two big ones were back-to-back passes to Mac Hollins. Both of them, like, basically combined, they were like 50 to 60 yards on the two passes, with the second one going for a touchdown. It was a 35-yard touchdown, I believe, is, if I can find the actual play-by-play. It was a really nice pass. 35 yards. It was literally back-to-back passes to Mac Hollins, a 24-yard pass against Reek Woolen, and then a 35-yard pass basically in a double coverage. But Mac Hollins caught it nonetheless. So Patriots confusingly kicked the extra point out of this. I'm not really sure why they didn't go for two here. But this made it 19-7. So there's there's some people, definitely thinking like there's a chance they can come back here. It's not quite over yet. So it was there was certainly a chance here. So after that, drive 22 consisted of basically a 4-and-out. They had like one first down, and then the Seahawks and Darnold barely missed JSN, who was basically wide open. And basically, like, if he had caught it, he would have just ran for like 60 yards for a touchdown because he was wide open. But Darnold just he was a bit under pressure and just kind of overthrew it a little bit by a couple yards. The Seahawks punted. And they actually punted it. Michael Dixon punted it, and it wound up on the 4-yard line. Really nice punt there by Michael Dixon once again. And so it was like there's a little bit of momentum here for the Patriots because they just scored a touchdown on two plays, and they got the ball back. So and there's still like 13-10, above 10 minutes left in the game, and Patriots still had all three of their timeouts at this point. And then Patriots started cooking a little bit on offense. Like Drake May was starting to complete a couple passes. He was marching him down the field. Then he had there was a point where he had a clean pocket, stepped back to throw, and then threw one of the worst interceptions I've seen in a good while. It was like he was basically throwing to a guy, I forget who it was. It might have been Kayshon Boutte, 25 yards down the field over the middle, who was pretty tightly covered, and May overthrew it by 10 yards right into the hands of who was the guy who intercepted it? Please, ESPN, tell me. Julian Love, that's who it was, the safety. So yeah, Julian Love got a really easy interception. it was an awful throw. It was so bad. Chris Collinsworth was speechless. He was kind of singing the praises of Drake May a little bit on that drive where he's he's starting to get into a rhythm. Here's a guy who can throw a football, and then he throws the interception, and Collinsworth is like, yeah, I got nothing for that one. It was really bad. And that was kind of what sealed it. The Seahawks on drive number 29 or 24. Sorry. It was KW9 I had in the notes. Kenneth Walker. He started rumbling on this drive. Got burned a ton of time. Got the Seahawks into the red zone. Seahawks once again stalled out in the red zone, but at this point it didn't really matter. Jason Myers kicked his fifth field goal of the game, making it 22-7. Myers also, with that, became the first player to score 200 points in a season, combining regular season and postseason stats, breaking LaDainian Tomlinson's previous record, which I think was 198 total points, which, again, side note, that season with LaDainian Tomlinson was absurd because kickers are always the guys to score the most points because, they're the ones kicking extra points as well as field goals. So, they're always involved on scoring plays outside of 2-point conversions and safeties and all that. But, they're always the ones that are have the highest scoring amount of points for a team usually at the end of the year. So for LaDainian Tomlinson to not only edge it or beat out his kicker, but also, nearly scored 200 points in a single season. And that was back in a 17 game season, 16 games because they had the bye week. And it's the Chargers didn't even make the Super Bowl. I don't remember if they made the conference championship. that year. I think this was 2010. And it was ridiculous. Like, Daniel Tomlinson was insane. Crazy guy in terms of production. Anyway, back to the game. 22-9. Tail end of the fourth quarter at this point. Drive number 25 goes back to New England. Starts out with a couple of good plays, but then what looked initially to be a strip sack was actually basically Drake May got hit in the pocket as he was throwing, and the throw went all of like 2 feet into the hands of Uchenna Nwosu, who then ran it back 45 yards uncontested for a pick six. And the extra point made it 29-7 or 29. Yeah, it was 29-7 at this point. And this basically sealed it. Like it was over at this point. And the Seahawks defense was completely dominating this game. All that was really left was the final score. The Patriots on the 26th drive of the game were able to march down and score a touchdown. Diggs made the touchdown catch. He was pretty much non-existent this whole season. It was actually Ramondre Stevenson catch. It was Stephon Diggs got them into the red zone. That's what it was. He had a 26-yard catch on this drive. And then Ramondre Stevenson basically caught a screen pass for the touchdown. The Patriots then failed the 2-point conversion, making it 29-13. And yeah, that was it. So the Patriots kicked it off. The Seahawks had another drive. They looked like Kenneth Walker was going to score like a big touchdown from about midfield to really ice the game, even though he could have slowed down and, probably would have won the game anyway. But in the end, it didn't matter because they got called back for a hold, and the Seahawks punted not long after. But then after that, like the Patriots were out of timeouts, and there was basically no time left, and the Patriots had a couple plays, but in the end, it was not enough. The game ended during that Patriots drive, with the final score being Seahawks 29, Patriots 13, making the Seattle Seahawks your Super Bowl 60 champions. Not super surprising. I had them as my favorite to win the Super Bowl when the playoffs started, and surprise, surprise, they wound up winning. So for some stats, Sam Darnold finished this game 19 of 38 for 202 yards and a touchdown, was sacked only one time for 8 yards. Did not turn the ball over. So the Seahawks during this entire postseason, during the 3 games, did not turn the ball over once. And that is one of the many reasons why they won. Kenneth Walker, who wound up winning Super Bowl MVP, carried the ball 27 times for 135 yards. Could have had more, could have had a touchdown, but it was called back for a hold. Either way, Kenneth Walker had a really good game. So in the end, the loss of Zach Charbonnet was not enough to hamper the Seattle run game. Obviously sucks that Charbonnet, I don't know if he'll get a ring because he was on injured reserve by the time this game started. But, Charbonnet was one of the many contributors to this Seahawks offense. And Kenneth Walker, I think, is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. So I'm assuming the Seahawks re-sign him to a big deal. But either way, he's probably going to get a pretty nice contract here. For receiving, the top Seattle receiver was Cooper Kupp with 6 catches for 61 yards. A.J. Barner had the lone touchdown catch, 4 catches, 54 yards. And other than that, JSN was actually pretty non-existent this game. 4 catches, 27 yards. He was also dealing with that concussion. He did come back into the game. I forgot to mention that, but he was kind of a non-factor in the sense of production-wise. Obviously, he's still he was getting shadowed by Christian Gonzalez the whole time, so that freed up Kupp and Barner. But even then, it was not the Seattle passing game that did it. It was the run game, and then again the defense. So in terms of the defense, Derek Hall had an insane game. He had 2 sacks. Byron Murphy also had 2 sacks. Riley Mills had his first sack of his career. He was a rookie. He had an insane bull rush sack, right up the middle, just bullying the center right into Drake May, and also bringing Drake May down with him as he's getting tackled by the center. It might have been the guard. I don't remember exactly, but it was a really good, really, really good sack. And then Devin Witherspoon also had a sack on a cornerback blitz, making the sack totals 6 overall. And just a really, really good defensive performance. Obviously, I covered the Uchenna Nwosu and Julian Love interceptions. Nwosu with a pick 6. It all around really good performance by the Seahawks. Jason Myers obviously went 5 for 5 on his field goals, and Michael Dixon had an insane punting performance as well. So yeah, very, very well done by the Seahawks. On the Patriots side, Drake May went 27 of 43 for 295 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Basically, almost all of those yards came in the fourth quarter. It was like 210 of the 295 yards came in the fourth quarter. He was sacked 6 times for those 43 yards. Rushing wise, the Patriots rushing attack was just completely stuffed. Drake May actually led the team in rushing yards 5 times for 37 yards. Ramondre Stevenson carried the ball 7 times for 23 yards. And then Travion Henderson had 6 carries for only 19 yards. So that's, I think I'm surprised the Patriots went away from the running game as fast as they did. Like, I know they're getting stuffed a lot, but it's still like the passing game wasn't doing much better, and they just abandoned the run way too quickly. One of the many reasons they lost. I think the biggest reason was, and I think many of the people who are commenting about the game have said, is that the offensive line was the main culprit of the Patriots losing here, because the Patriots defense, the score was 29 to 13, but the Patriots defense was not playing a bad game. They only gave up 12 points through 3 quarters. Their offense just could get nothing done, at all. It was really bad. Patriots receiving wise, Matt Collins led the team, 4 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Demario Douglas had 5 catches, 45 yards. Stephon Diggs was kind of a non-factor. Same with Hunter Henry and Kayshon Boutte. Kayshon Boutte only had 1 catch for 21 yards. Hunter Henry had 3 catches, 31 yards. Diggs had 3 catches, 37 yards, one of them being a 26-yard catch. So all around, just not a good performance by the Seahawks, or by the Patriots offense, I should say. Drake May had the 1 lost fumble. There were no interceptions by the Patriots defense, and only the 1 sack by Milton Williams. It's not great, to be honest. Not great. Neither team's very good punt returner had much to do. Rashid Shaheed or Marcus Jones just couldn't really do anything. Just some really good punting in this game. It was that was that. So yeah, that is the Super Bowl. Seattle Seahawks win their 2nd Super Bowl in their franchise history. Avenging the Super Bowl 49 loss. They did not need to run the ball on the 1-yard line this time. They were controlling pretty much throughout the entire game. And now they are actually bidding farewell to Clint Kubiak, as he has officially been hired by the Raiders. So we'll see how the Seahawks, and really how everyone, how they rebound after 2025, and how the 2026 season is gonna shape up. Because Patriots, they got a Super Bowl, but they got a lot of work to do, essentially. The Seahawks, they won the Super Bowl, but they also have a lot of work to do in the offseason, as does everyone. So yeah, that's football for you. It's the grind never stops. I mean, the combine's coming up in March. Free agency starts in March as well. Drafts in late April. But we also have baseball coming up soon. Pitchers and catchers are reporting to teams as of today, when I'm recording this. So yeah, sports aren't going anywhere, and I'm not going anywhere. This for next coming episodes. The Saturday is going to be my continuation of my StarCraft summary, because I've gotten through base StarCraft and Brood War in the last 2 episodes. I'm now going to be moving on to Wings of Liberty. Not sure if Wings of Liberty is going to take up the entire episode, or if I'm going to go on to Heart of the Swarm and Legacy Void as well. Probably just do Wings, just making it kind of a shorter episode unless things do really drag on. We'll see how it goes, essentially. And then next Tuesday, I'll probably do a divisional summary, I think is what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to stick with football up until really baseball starts. Since I think once the baseball season gets into full swing, I'll probably have Tuesdays kind of be like a weekly recap of the baseball season, I think is what I'm going to do. If things are really boring, I might do a different type of episode. But I think I might keep Tuesdays as the weekly recap for either football or baseball, depending on the two, because they can both, baseball can basically transition right into football back once we hit the fall. And I think I can carry the divisional recaps into baseball season, essentially. So I'll probably start with the NFC East recap next week. So it'll basically be a much longer version of the shorts that I've been doing, like the 3-word shorts that I've been doing on my YouTube channel. Timing the Host, you should go subscribe to it on YouTube. It's all one word. It has this podcast on here. I'm going to plug that again. But anyway, yeah, that's probably going to be for next Tuesday. And then next Saturday, or this coming Saturday, is the StarCraft 2 episode. That will do it for this one. Thank you once again for coming on this journey with me through the 2025 season. It was a very chaotic season. Very, very chaotic season. Very fun season to watch, even if, as a Commanders fan, I was very miserable through most of it. But I'm excited to see what the future holds for the Commanders. I like their coordinator hires. They just had their opening press conference, and both Blau and Durante Jones look very interesting. Blau seems like the exact kind of insane football nerd you need as an offense coordinator. And then Durante Jones seems to have inherited the psychopathic nature that any good defensive coordinator has. But since he was a disciple of Brian Flores, who is a legit football psychopath as a defensive coordinator, like the stuff he comes up with is just absurd. So getting his protege essentially with a similar mindset, I'm excited. And they look like they're basically going to be running their individual schemes, with Dan Quinn kind of taking a step back more as just a player leader, which I like, because while Dan Quinn, I think as a coach, has kind of like the game has kind of passed him by a little bit. He's a very good motivator and a very good leader, and like the players seem to love him. Like he seems like a really good dude, so it's good to keep him around there. I'm also getting ahead of myself to the preview, but yeah, so that's going to do that. I'll stop here and save that for next week. So that will do it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening.